So we'll begin the topic of dreams. I should actually say, fortunately, dreams in Judaism is there's so much wealth of knowledge and information regarding dreams in Judaism. Right? People say dreams are fake. Oh, and this one thinks that dreams are real. So I had two options of how to go about doing this. I was either thinking I could make one class in about an hour and give you like a very brief overview about dreams, and you walk out more or less knowing a little bit about dreams. But my usual ways of doing things is usually not like that. I like to give a full package. So that's why some of my things are more than one class. It's a few classes.
Right, but we have to. If we started today, then we have to do it next week and next week.
Yeah. We'll continue it in the same until we finish it. It should be a few classes. It shouldn't be that many, but there's a lot of different aspects of it. So we're going to go very systematically in it. We're going to deal with it piece by piece. At the end, for those of you that stay on board the whole time, you'll have a very, very clear picture about dreams and about dream interpretations. How do you know if a dream is real? How do you know if a dream is fake? How do you know how to interpret a dream? How do you know if you should interpret a dream? How do you know if you have to worry about a dream? And how do you know if you don't have to worry about dreams? Where do dreams come from? What are their sources? Everything, God willing, but with God's help, we'll go through all of that. So there was... first we'll start with two stories to explain a little bit about dreams. There was once somebody that was a very big rabbi. And he died in one particular day. And at that same exact day, another man died. And this man was very, very evil. Guy was was bad against the Jews. Never did it. He was a Jewish guy, but very, very evil guy. Big sinner. So they were bringing the procession was going to the funeral to the graveyard with both the same with the rabbi on one side and the other one on the other side. Now the rabbi had a whole bunch of people following him, and the other guy had a few close of his friends are following him. Suddenly they're getting closer to the graveyard, and suddenly they start hearing like gunshots shooting and people screaming, and they realize that bandits, they're like robbers, are going through the town. As you're talking about a story that happened some time ago, running through town. So everybody started getting really scared. So they dropped the coffins and everybody ran. Now there was one student for the rabbi who was, I was like, I can't leave my rabbi over here. He's in a coffin. I can't leave him. He felt really bad. So he went and he hid behind the bushes and he watched the coffin the whole time. Everybody ran away. He was sitting there. He saw the robbers go through, and pilgrimage and whatever they did. Few hours later, it quiets down the whole town. The funeral continues. The people come back, and the people that went over for the rabbi came over to the rabbi's coffin, and the people that came over for the sinner came over to the sinner's coffin. So now this guy's watching this the whole time, and he sees that they switch groups. They switch caskets. The rabbi is now going with the people with the sinners, and this guy, the evil guy, is going with a group of all the big rabbis and the whole Jewish community. So the guy starts screaming. He says, "No, you switched it." He says, "This is the rabbi and this is the sinner." And everyone's like, "Are you crazy? You're just fanatic. Come, just leave us alone. This is the one that's a rabbi. This is the one." Every side was sure that they had the right side, and he kept on screaming and screaming and screaming. And they were like, "Listen, it's not happening. Okay, you're crazy. This is it. And this is the rabbi, and this is the sinner." And they went, and they buried the sinner in the rabbi's plot, and they gave him a big eulogy, and they gave him a whole big, you ever seen Chacham Avadia Yosef's funeral? It's about 1 million people that showed up. The rabbi gets a real funeral, right? You go to any multi-millionaire that passed away, he's not getting, all his business associates are maybe going to show up, only the close ones. The rest are going to be like, no, we'll wait for the check to come for our, inheritance. Right? So he goes and he was very bothered by this. The student was very bothered. He says, how is it that my rabbi, such a holy person, he got this type of burial, and this guy, he got such a fancy burial? That night he went to sleep, and his rabbi came to him in a dream. And the rabbi said, "You should know that it was ordained in heaven that I should have this type of burial." He says, because one time I was standing in front of a righteous man, and somebody else came and insulted this righteous man in front of me. And I didn't say anything. And he says, because of that, my punishment was, I was going to get punished over here, so I don't have to deal with it in the next world. My punishment would be, is that I have a very small funeral, very, embarrassing type of funeral. He says, and this guy, this sinner, he says, one time the governor was supposed to come to his house. And the governor was, planning a big, he comes with not just himself, he comes with a whole posse of people. So he comes in and he decides, the sinner says, listen, the governor come here. So he prepares a huge feast for this governor and his group. And the last minute, the governor cancels. So now this guy is sitting over there with a whole bunch of food. He says, what am I going to do with all this food? He says, you know what? I'm feeling in a good mood. Let me go and let me invite all the poor people. So he invites all the poor people, and the poor people come and they take part of that. Now, this was his only good deed that he did in his life. So heaven said, we're not going to pay you for this in the next world. We'll pay you for you in this world. It says you'll have a very big funeral. And it says that's why. And this is what this rabbi came to his student in the dream and told him. The student heard this, he felt better. He says, now I feel okay. I felt that there was a reason for it, and he felt better about it. So here we see a direct, proof that that there was communication from a dead person, which we're going to soon see also. Can you communicate with dead people, via dreams? And to this student, there was another person, and this is I don't remember where I saw this. I saw this a while ago. I found that it was a funny story. I can't vouch for its authenticity because I don't remember the source for it. But in any case, it's a good story to share regarding dreams. And there was once a guy that always prayed for money. He said, God, please give me money, please give me money, please give me money. And one day he gets a dream. And he says in the dream, he says, listen, the king lives nearby you. He says, go to the king's garden. He says, in the garden there's a certain bush. 14 steps away from that bush there's a tree. Give him like a treasure map in his dream. And he says, over there, bring a shovel, dig over there, you'll find the treasure. So the guy's like, he wakes up from the dream and he's like, how am I going to go? This is the king's palace. I'm not going to be able to just walk in with a shovel and start digging near the king's palace. So he thinks, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. He decides, listen, it came to him a dream. It felt really real. He went for it. He goes and he starts traveling. He gets into the king's courtyard and he sees a bunch of guards over there. So he can't he's going to start doing that. He's going to get shot or slain with the sword, whatever it was back then. So he goes and he decides that he's going to go and speak to one of the guards, the closest guard, say, let me try my luck. And he comes with a shovel, he drags a metal shovel over him. You see a little Jewish guy dragging a shovel. He says, hey, listen, I don't know how to explain this to you, but, and he starts telling, I had a dream, and there's a treasure, and he starts counting over there, and I have to dig it, it's really mine. He's giving this whole thing, and this guy starts laughing at him. He's like, are you serious? You really think that you're going to come into the king's, and you're going to start digging because of what you had in the dream? And he starts calling over his guys. He says, hey, listen to this guy, what a fool he is, look into this dream. And everyone's laughing at him. And then one of the guys, the one that he spoke to originally, he says, what do you think? Everybody here listens to their dreams. He said, I had a dream that there was some guy, and he says by the name, and it was this guy's name. And he lives from a certain town, and this is where this guy lives. In a certain block, he gave him exact address. In his backyard, there's a treasure. You see me going over to some Jewish house in the somewhere far away for looking for a treasure? You don't, because dreams are meaningless. And he goes and he laughs. This guy walks away thinking, what's the coincidence? He says, I came over here, this guy had a dream in my house. He doesn't know my name, he doesn't know where I live, he doesn't know which street I live on. And he says exactly where it is there's a treasure there. So he says, it can't hurt, to my property. He goes to his property, finds what this guy was talking about, dug there, and found the treasure. Right? So there is a very strong source for dreams. There's also many people that have parents that pass away, come to their children in a dream. And they come to their children and they say, there's one famous story that there was it was a woman who passed away and she left no religious kids. One of them was like a semi-religious girl. And she comes over after she passed a few months later, and a few months after she passed away, she goes over to the girl and she says, listen, she says, how come no one's saying Kaddish for me? He says, you're causing me so much suffering up here. So the girl, woke up, didn't know what to do, went over to her rabbi. The rabbi says, your brothers, you're not saying Kaddish, they're not even religious. So they said, go and pay somebody to say Kaddish for your mother. She went, she paid somebody to say Kaddish for her mother, and from that, he says, a short while later, the mother came back in the dream and said, you had consoled me. Right? Okay, so now, that's just a little introduction about that. But now, we're to go to the next step is we're going to first say, what do science say about dreams? Right? Then we're going to speak about Torah and Lent. But the science mindset, do they say, is dreams real? Can dreams happen? And if they are real, do they have any meaning to it? So there was the father of psychoanalysis, which I'm sure you've all heard of, Sigmund Freud. He wrote a book called The Interpretation of Dreams. He studied dreams. And the way that he explains it, why do people dream? So, and I'll try to explain it. I'm not a psych major or any close of that sort, but I'll try to explain it. Freud explains that there's three parts of the conscious. There's the id, the ego, and the superego. Right? The id is something that you have, your pleasures, your desires, your unchecked urges, everything that you want to do, but sometimes you don't really do it, but your real desires inside. Then you have something called the ego. The ego is more like the, hold up, it's like the good angel. Maybe you shouldn't, punch this baby in the face. It's not a smart idea. Or, don't kick this dog. It tells you, but you really want to kick a dog, for whatever reason, right? And that's the little sensor that says, maybe you shouldn't. The good angel and the bad angel. Then there's something called the superego. The superego is like the filter that goes over the id. So it's the filter that says, that actualizes, says, you have one thing saying to you to kick a dog, the other thing says don't kick a dog. The superego goes and basically covers the bad, the id, and saying we're going to filter and make sure you don't kick the dog, right? So it's like the basically the net covering your urges. So says Freud, he says when you dream, he says everything, all the ego and the superego, all that goes away. Only your natural desires come about. He says what you dream is really what you're really desiring inside. He says you have all these urges that are really boiled up inside you, and there's no way for you to let it out. How do you let it out? In your dreams. Now, he goes on and he explains, he says, listen, some people are, a little cuckoo, with their urges. He says if they would see dreams, all their urges, they'll go crazy. So it says in the dream, sometimes there is they come and they sort of censor what you see in your dream, which means it's yourself. Your own body is censoring what you see in your dreams, so you won't wake up, being horrified of the images that you saw in your dreams last night. He says that's why sometimes you wake up being like, where are these weird dreams? I don't understand. It makes no sense. That's where, you have desires, but they're like, no, stop, don't show him to this. This is crazy, right? So something along those lines. So that's how Freud explains it. Now, what about... This is Freud. The way that Freud explains this is it's everything in the past. All your desires, your urges, and things that you've been dealing with in the past. What about to tell you the future? So Freud says, absolutely out of the question. There is no way that in your dream, you could be told the future of what's going to happen. Right? So this is more the secular source of Freud. However, there was many people that did studies after Freud, and we'll get to a famous one, but September 11th, there are people that also looked into it. There are people that wrote up that they dreamt. Like there was one particular story that there was a woman, I forgot from where, that she dreamt, she kept on drinking 2850. I think it was the number, 2830, I'm sorry, 2830, 2830. And she kept on dreaming about spinning into blackness and like very scary dreams. She was supposed to go to Disneyland, at a certain time. And she got really freaked out and she got really scared and she decided to cancel her trip. It was with her husband and with her kids. And they all thought they were crazy, but what a woman says, a woman goes, right? I mean, whoever's married knows that. Whoever's not married will simply know that. So she said, no going, we're not going. So a few days later, the flight that they were supposed to go on was one of the planes that went into the September 11th, or was one of the planes that went down on September 11th. There were many people that actually dreamt about September 11th before it happened. There was actually an employer in 7-Eleven. In 7-Eleven. No one's even fixing me up over here. In 9/11. Right? You know who did that also? Trump. I don't know if anybody saw that. He also said 7-Eleven and 9/11. Maybe I should run for president. All right, so he goes and he goes and he explains that he had a dream that there was a lot of rubble everywhere. Like there was things. It was very dirty and everything was full of garbage everywhere and very black. And he had very scary dreams. And his wife also had a similar type of dream. But yet, it didn't stop him from going into work that day, and he was one of them that died. He was considered like a hero. He actually saved a lot of kids from the ground floor over there. There was a kindergarten over there. So, there was another, and these are all secular sources for dream. We didn't even get anything about the Torah yet. There was another one that there was a woman that dreamt that she woke up, and in her dream, she woke up, and it was thundering outside. And she heard like a noise, and then she looked at the clock, it was 4:35 a.m., and then she heard a big noise that the chandelier fell in the baby's room. She had a chandelier fell in the baby's room. So, and then she wakes up. This is all happened in her dream. She wakes up, she looks at the clock, it's 2:30. Nothing is raining outside. So she got a little bit nervous, the chandelier falling on top of the baby. She got a little nervous. She went to the baby's room. She picked up the baby, put it in her bed. When she wakes up, she wakes up a little bit later, 2.5 hours later, at 4:30 exactly. And she looks outside the window, it's thundering. And then she hears a large crash. Her husband and her both wake up, and she was up already. Her husband wakes up, rushed into the baby's room. The chandelier fell directly where the baby was sleeping. So she had somehow was notified this beforehand, and she saved her baby's life from that. And there was many details that were there. They say also that there's the September 11th, all the flights that were on that day that crashed had a very high vacancy rate, and they're not really sure how to explain that. Why were so many people not there? The last secular source that I want to bring you is a very famous one. You can actually do a lot of research on. You can look up in it. It's called the Aberfan tragedy. The Aberfan tragedy was a tragedy that happened, I think, in 1966. It was in the village of Aberfan. That what it had was that they had like a mountain near the village, and in the and then they had a school, like the whole village was over there, and then they had a school over here. Now there was a huge landslide of mud. It was like it was a tsunami of like rubble. There was like the whole what is that called? Avalanche of stuff that came from the mountain and basically destroyed the whole school.
Was there snow in the mountain?
It wasn't snow. It was like rubble and dirt and rug.
Mudslide.
So maybe it was a mudslide, whatever it's called. Yeah, a mudslide. I think that makes sense. So they had, and it destroyed the school. It destroyed a few things. So there was a psychiatrist by the name of Dr. John Barker that lived near Aberfan. He put an ad. What?
Where's Aberfan?
Aberfan is in Wales. Oh. So he put an ad in the local paper in 1966. Right after this happened, he says if anybody had any idea that this was supposed to happen, please write to me. And he put his address over there. He got 76 letters back. 26 of those letters were about dreams. That people had dreams that this was going to happen beforehand. Now he had criteria. He says, listen, everybody who's going to write a letter, I'm not just going to, okay, yeah, I dreamed about it. How do I know? So he had criteria. Number one, he says you had to tell the dream to somebody else, a reliable witness, before it happened, that you dreamed this. Number two, the gap between the dream and the actual event that happened had to be very close. The closer, the more real and the more whatever. That was his criteria. Number three, it had to be something that the dreamer cannot even imagine. Like how is it possible that this should happen? Number four, it has to be like he visualized it. Not like, symbolic, that he saw black in a poem and, whatever. He had to actually visualize it. And the fifth one is that the details in the dream fit the details of the actual current events. So he got actually a few things that actually matched this description. They told somebody, one of them was a little girl. A little girl, I'm going to pronounce her name wrong, Errol Mai. She went over to her mother. She was, 5, 6, 7, like she was very young. So she went over and she says, Mommy, I had a dream last night. And her mother said, listen, my darling, I don't have time for you to tell it to me later. And she goes back a few hours and Mommy, you have to hear this dream. And she goes on, she says, first of all, before even she said the dream, she says, she goes just randomly, Mommy, I'm not afraid to die. So the mother's like, what are you talking about? Where do you even get something about dying? He's just like, here, take a lollipop. And she said, no, don't worry about it. Soon I'm going to be with Peter and June. So the day before this happened, she goes over to her mother again and says, Mommy, I had another dream I want to tell to you. And she said, again, she says, I have no time. You have a 5-year-old that's telling you have dreams. Okay, whatever. Speak. She says, no, we don't have time. Talk to me later. And she was insisting. She says, no, I have to tell you. She says, I dreamed I went to school and there was no school. She said something black happened, came all over it. The very next day, this child was killed in that avalanche, in that mudslide of all those, of all the rock, and she was destroyed. With the entire school was destroyed, and all the people that in her died. It was like there was a lot of deaths over there. So she goes and they buried them in like this sort of communal grave, for all the people that died in that tragedy. She was buried next to her friend June and next to her friend Peter, which she said in her dream earlier. So we see over here, different to what Freud says, right? We're still in secular sources. We see over here what Freud said. Freud says there's absolutely no way of a dream telling you the future. Here we see already secular sources. We didn't even speak about the Torah yet. That said that that it could tell you the future, and it did. And it did tell some people got saved and some people didn't get saved. Okay. Now the next step we have to go and we have to understand is why do we sleep? Why do people go to sleep? And the Scientific American actually says, and I'm quoting, we don't know the function or the functions of dreaming. They agree that says we're not really sure what's going on over there. Right? Science usually has an answer for everything, or they think they do. This is what they say, we're not really sure. Right? We know a little bit, whatever, but they're not really sure. And
don't we have rapid eye movement?
Yeah, they're still not sure exactly about rapid eye movement either.
So your eyes go like literally back and forth.
No, yeah, but I'm saying like what exactly is happening? Like why is it happening? And all those things.
What causes it? What's the problem?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what they don't know, but they in Scientific American they actually say that they don't know everything. So there's something very interesting is we spend a large majority of our time sleeping, right? So it pays to know what we're doing when we're sleeping and what it means. And here's something very interesting, just a tidbit of information I found very very interesting about certain animals versus us, how long they sleep. A brown bat sleeps 19.9 hours in 24 hours. So 82% of the day it sleeps, right? I'm just going to rush through a few of them because I found them very interesting. A giant armadillo, 18 hours it sleeps. A python, also 18 hours. A human baby sleeps 16 hours. A tiger is 15.8 hours. A squirrel, 14.9. And then there's a lion, which is 13.5. And then we'll skip a few. A giraffe sleeps only 1.9 hours in every 24-hour period. Now, why is it that humans, so a human sleeps in general, an elderly human sleeps about 5.5 hours a night. So, why do people need sleep? They actually made a test. They made a test that they took a cat and they tried to prevent the cat from sleeping. So every time they did, they would buzz it. And it went on for, I think, 2 days and it was going crazy. By the third day, the cat died. It died from a lack of sleep. So they went and they actually tested a human on this. They signed the waiver and all that. And the human was, after like 3 days or something like that, the human was going crazy. A human can last longer without food and drink than they could last without sleep. So if sleep is so important, then what is the purpose of it? Why do we sleep? What?
Stress reliever.
So that's also what the...
Your body lives on nerves your whole day. If you're
Right.
going to be on your nerves 24 hours...
That's what we're going to speak about the Kabbalah now. Now we're going to speak... Okay, so now... there's another thing that we have to understand is when you sleep, you have a soul and you have a body. What rests? What would you think would rest when you sleep? The soul or the body?
So,
Body.
So if you say body, so I heard both answers. If you say body, then if somebody just rests for 12 hours, not sleeping, just sitting and relaxing, resting, he should wake up rejuvenated and feel good. But yet, sometimes you see that the person can do that and he's exhausted even more. He's even more tired.
They say that the specific amount of time you should sleep to feel rejuvenated is only 15 minutes.
That's a
Rejuvenate
power nap.
for your day. It's the power nap. It's the perfect power nap.
But if you don't sleep, if you just rest your body, you don't feel rejuvenated. You still feel tired. You might feel a little bit more relaxed. But in order to feel rejuvenated, that's why you can have somebody that lays in bed for 10 hours, not sleeping, tossing and turning, relaxing, while whatever he's doing, reading a book. Then you have somebody else sleeps for a half hour, wakes up and he's all energy. He had a power nap, right? He had all these things. So we see over here something it's not about the body. You're rejuvenating your soul. You're sending your soul, because if it would be your body, then just chilling and relaxing should be enough. Why do you have to close your eyes and go to sleep, not know what's going on, and all those things? Okay, so the Ramchal. Now we're going to go to the real sources, the Jewish sources, right?
I have a question. What fraction of death is sleep?
1/60th. We'll speak about that. Okay, so the Ramchal, and I'll try to give as many, whenever I speak about topics that are, a little bit on the, I don't want to say Kabbalistic or the whatever, heebie-jeebie side, I usually try to give sources. Because people say, it's not true. Somebody who never opened up a Torah, all of a sudden becomes an expert. Not true. So, the Ramchal, if you want to look at it, it's in Derech Hashem, part 3, section 1. He says, when a person sleeps, his intellect rests, only his imagination is active. So he says this is things that you imagine, these things that you see during your awake are things that could come back to you again when you're sleeping, like those images and those things that you've been dealing with or talking about, things that you were working with the whole day. He says, and this is a little bit on the Kabbalistic side, I'll try to explain it as simple as I can explain. There are 5 parts of the soul. There is the nefesh, the ruach, the neshama, the chiyah, and the yechida. So the nefesh is the animalistic part of the soul. There's 5 parts of the soul. Each part has a different, it's located in a different place. There's the nefesh. The nefesh is located in the liver. Okay? Then you have a ruach. Ruach is in your heart.
Wait, why is there nefesh in your liver?
So that we have to explain at a different time. I have a whole thing explaining what's the purpose of each one of why it's a very interesting thing, but it's very long to explain it. The ruach is in the heart. The neshama is in the brain. The chiyah surrounds the body, and then you have the yechida that's over the body. It says, when you go to sleep, the only part that remains in your body is the nefesh. The 4 out of 5 parts leave your body, right? They roam, whichever area they're allowed to roam, depending on the level of whatever that soul, and whichever, in the connection that soul has, and then whatever it sees will be transmitted to those upper portions of your soul. That will be transmitted into your lower portion of your soul. Now, the difference is what you're going to see in your dreams. What your soul, the parts of your soul sees in the outside of your body versus what's inside of your body. So it depends what's been stimulated by the higher upper neshamas. Is that clear? I know it's a little bit of a little bit out there, but so therefore, it says dreams can be real or fake. They could be either through a deep, which we're going to speak about. I don't know if we'll get to. Hopefully, we'll get to today. It could be through a demon or through an angel. It says there are fake dreams and there are real dreams, depending on where your soul went when it left your body. In your dream state.
What would it roam? Like the 7 stages. of our soul where.
No, so there's 4 parts of the soul that leaves the.
I know, but like I'm saying.
Oh, where is it going to roam?
Shemayim,
It's in Shemayim. Yeah, it's in a certain place. It's not. It doesn't go into heaven. You know, it's in a certain place that it goes to.
Could it go to Gan Eden possibly? And
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. So he says this is why, and you know, when you just bear with me if you don't read or speak Hebrew. Before we go to sleep, we say Shema. In Shema, we say Adon Olam. In Adon Olam, listen to this. We say Biyado Afkid Ruchi, and I'll translate. Into his hand, I entrust my spirit. Be'et Ishan ve'aira, when I go to sleep and when I wake. Ve'im Ruchi Giviati, and with my spirit as well as my body. Hashem li ve'lo ira. Hashem is with me and I will not fear. Now, the question is, why Ruchi? Biyado Afkid Ruchi. In his hand do I entrust my spirit. Why spirit? Says the Ramchal, because the spirit and up are the things that I give to God. The nefesh is what we said stays over here. The ruach, the neshama, the yechidah, and the chiyah are all going up into the higher worlds. Then the ruach and up goes over there. That's why when we say Adon Olam, we say, God, I'm entrusting you with my soul. That's why when we wake up, we say, what do we say? We say Modeh Ani. Modeh Ani. What do we say? Modeh Ani lefnecha melech chai v'kayam shechazata bi nishmati. That you return my neshama. It says, why do we say neshama? We say also ruchi. Why don't we say the ruchi? Says so he explains that the neshama here's an example. There's New York City and there's New York State. To say that there's both is correct, right? Neshama is like an all encapsulating of all the souls. It's what you say when you say your soul. You say neshama. So it includes all the 5 souls. So we entrust ruchi and up. When we come back, we say thank you for giving me back everything. Thank you for giving me back the neshama as an all encapsulated soul. Make sense so far? Okay, good. So, all right. So now I want to go through some sources of dreams in the Torah, where we see that dreams happen. And God willing, later in the later lectures, we'll break it down and we'll see how much we could actually learn from these dreams and how much it could shed light of what dreams mean.
I'm not sure if you mentioned or not. During sleeping time, we have 2 periods: long sleeping time and short sleeping time. And the dreams, what we have, it's only in the short period of sleeping time.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody wake up and had a say, oh, I had a dream. So they wake up on the short sleeping time. We don't know exactly what's going on inside the time.
They say that the dream takes about 9 seconds.
Yes.
You could dream.
It's maybe if you're gonna count like a 1 hour of sleeping time, 45, 50 minutes it's long.
Right.
We don't have dreams at all.
Mm-hmm.
Only in the short period we have a dream.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if we wake up, like some people say, oh, I had a dream, but I don't remember exactly what happened.
Yeah. So we'll speak about that also. We'll speak about people that say they don't dream. Is that bad? Now we're not going to get to that today. We're going to get that in the following lectures. But the majority. The dreams happen in a very short period of time. Very short period of time, and it's usually right before you wake up. And sometimes, but we'll see. And that's one of the criteria. How do you tell if a dream is real or fake?
But sometimes we wake up during the night, so it's not
right. And sometimes you wake up during the night, you didn't have a dream. Sometimes you wake up during the night, you did have a dream.
If we wake up in the long period of sleeping time, we don't have a dream. We don't know exactly what's going on.
Right.
Only in a short period.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we'll speak a little bit more on that. So I'm going to go through it very briefly. A few sources in Torah that there is dreams, that the Torah speaks about dreams. And by the way, I'll just preempt with saying that if Torah is speaking about dreams, it must be that dreams is real. Right? I'm talking about in the 5 books of Moses. We're going to go through. We're going to go through a few dreams. The first dream in the Torah is Avimelech's dream. Avimelech's dream. I'll give you also the sources. It's Genesis chapter 20, verse 3. It says, God came to Avimelech in a dream. He came into him in a dream and he said, that he took Avram's wife and he said, you have a married woman. What are you doing over here? In a dream, he says, you better give back the married woman to the married man. And he went and he did that, and he found out, that it was true through the dream. So that's one source of dream. Another dream is Yaakov's dream. Yaakov in Genesis chapter 28, verse 12. It says, he had a dream that he saw a ladder, and he saw angels going up the ladder and down the ladder. Just a side point is also, they ask, why is it angels going, don't angels live in heaven? Shouldn't they be going down and then up? It says actually they're going up and then down. So one of the answers is because whenever you do something, you create an angel. You create either a good angel or a bad angel. So you're creating the angel and you're sending them up. You're sending them up, and then that's why specifically it says first it goes up and then it comes down. Okay, next is Laban's dream. Laban had a dream. Laban was, Jacob married 2 sisters, Rachel and Leah. Laban was their father. Yaakov basically just booked and ran with his wives and his kids. So Laban chased after him, and he says, what are you running out? What are you running out away from me? You should have asked me. I would have sent you out with presents. What you run like you're stealing? Like a thief in the night. So God came to him in a dream and says, make sure you don't speak neither good or bad to Jacob, right? And if you want to look it up, it's in Genesis 31, verse 24. I'm just very briefly going through them, and then we're going to, certain ones we'll speak about more in depth. Yosef's dream, the most famous probably of all dreams, right? Yosef had two dreams, right? He had one dream is that he had the sun and the moon and 11 stars bowing down to him. And then he had another dream that he had his stalk, and then he had 11 other stalks bowing down to him, right? And when he told this to his brothers said, what do you think, you're going to rule over us? And we'll soon see that they actually interpret the dream for him, and that's why it came true. And we'll soon explain that because the dreams go after interpretation. But that's when we're going to explain in more depth about Yosef. So Yosef was very big in dreams. And so much so is that when he got thrown into prison, later on, he had another two people had dreams in his same jail cell. It was the guy who was in charge of the wines and the guy who was in charge of the bread. The guy who was in charge of the wines, he had a dream and he says, he goes over he says, one day he wakes up and Yosef sees that something's wrong with him. So he says, hey, what's going on? And this, by the way, tells you of a leader, right? He's in a jail, and all of a sudden he sees some guy with a gloomy face. He says, hey, what's going on with you today? You don't look so happy. And then he says, I had a dream. And he explains, this is a righteous Jew. You see somebody not happy, you're in a jail cell, right? You don't care about the other person not having a bad dream. But no, Yosef was, what's wrong with you? Tell me what happened. And he says, listen, I had a dream. I had stalks. It was stalks, and then there was out of the stalks. So you know how wine grows? It grows up this thing. So there's a stick in it, and it crawls up. So I saw 3 of these, and they were budding. And I took out the grapes, and I poured it into the cup, and I gave it to follow the dream. So Yosef said, you know what the dream is? I'll interpret it for you. Because the dream means that in 3 days' time, you're going to go and you're going to pour wine now back for Palo, which means you're going to be reinstated in your previous position. So he's like, oh wow, that's awesome. He felt good. That was a great dream. So the cupbearer, the other guy, who does, not the cupbearer, I'm sorry, the baker, he says, wow, that was a good dream. He says, you know what? I had a dream also. He says, do me. And he says, my dream, I had 3 baskets. And on the top basket, I had the bread and all the stuff that Paro that would eat, all the things that go on his table. He says, and birds were coming and they were fighting, and they were eating from my head. So he goes and he says, you know what your dream is? The 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days' time, Paro's going to go and hang you, and you're going to die, and the birds are going to come and eat from your flesh. And the guy's like, what are you kidding me? He was like, 3 days? That's exactly what happened. Paro reinstated the guy who was the wine guy, and the guy with the bread, he hung. So many years later, I think it was 2 years later, Paro had a dream all of a sudden. There's a lot of dreams happening, right, in this part of the Torah. Paro had a dream. He said he saw 7 skinny cows, and then 7 fat cows, and the 7 skinny cows, he had the 7 fat cows, and nobody could interpret it for him. So the cupbearer's son says, hey, 2 years ago I had a dream, and there was a guy in prison that interpreted it really well for me. And he took Yosef out, Yosef interpreted it, and the rest is history. Right? He ended up ruling the land for 80 years. So we definitely see that the Torah speaks about dreams, right? So there is truth to dreams. There is something that's real in dreams, and that's what we have to uncover: is what do we know when it's real, and what do we know it's fake, and how do we interpret it? Okay, can I bother you for just anything? Yeah, anything works. Thank you. So the first thing we have to go through is: do dead people know what's going on in this world? Which means that many people have siblings or parents or whatever it is that pass away, and then they come to them in dream. Now, before we know that dreams can be real. Now, can the dead people, the people that are no longer with us, know what's happening in this world, that they could come and tell us things, or is it just our imagination? So there's a Gemara in Brachot 18b that says that asks this question: do dead people know what's happening? So it said there was once a certain Chassid that he gave some charity to to a poor person, and an Erev Rosh Hashanah. And then his wife angered him, right? His wife angered him, he got really upset, and he went to sleep in the cemetery. Now I have to just explain that part. It says, what, you see this righteous man, his wife gets angry, so he leaves the house. It doesn't say that he showed her that she was angry. It doesn't say that he screamed at her. He said that she angered him. He went to sleep in the cemetery, right? Which means he didn't answer back, he didn't say anything, he went to sleep in the cemetery. Now the Mefarshim explains, what do you mean, why did he go to sleep in the cemetery? He said he went to sleep in the cemetery, he says he felt, why am I getting angry? He says anger comes from being prideful, from being haughty. He says, why could I be? So let me go and I sleep. If I go sleep in the cemetery, you know where I'm going to be ending up. It's going to humble you. He says, he went to sleep in the cemetery. Anyways, he sleeps in the cemetery and he overhears two spirits talking. Two spirits in the cemetery talking. All right, some people say that this is actually in a dream, that happened in a dream, that he heard this. And this was Rosh Hashanah, he fell asleep, and one spirit goes over to the other one and says, come, let's go to heaven and see what's going to be for the next year. See what, and now's Rosh Hashanah, God's going to decree what's going to happen. Let's see all the curses, all the things that are going to happen. So the one that she was talking to was two girls. One that she was talking says, listen, I can't, I'm buried in a mat of reeds and I'm embarrassed to go. It was embarrassing for her to leave the way that she was buried. So she says, okay, fine, I'll go and I'll let you know what happens. So she goes up to heaven, she comes back, and she says, listen, they said that in the first quarter, there was there's certain rains. I'm not familiar with agricultural, thing, but there's certain rains, so you could plant things in the first quarter, let's say, or in the second quarter, and it's depending on the raining season is if you're going to be successful or not. So he says anybody who's going to plant in the first quarter is going to have all his fields. There's going to be a hailstorm. It's going to destroy all the fields. So he goes and he hears this and he says, all right, he had a field and he says, I'm not planting anything in the first quarter. He doesn't plant anything in the first quarter. First quarter, everybody's plants got messed up. The hail came and everything got destroyed. Then he goes and he plants in the second quarter and his field prospered and he made a lot of money off that. So the next year he says, listen, this is a good deal. Let me go check in again at the cemetery in Rosh Hashanah and see what's going on. He goes back to the cemetery and he listens, and again, she says to her friend, she says, hey, listen, let's go to see what's going on for this year again. And she answers back her friend, says, listen, I told you already, I'm buried in a mat of reeds. I'm embarrassed. I can't go. You go and you tell me.
Buried in what?
It's a mat of reeds. It's something that, whatever, let's leave it for something that she was embarrassed to So she goes to heaven, she comes back and says, this year, whoever plants in the second quarter is going to get all the fields. It's not going to prosper. It's only people who plant in the first quarter. Now, people that were in there, they're like, okay, listen, last year there was a hailstorm. Let's plant a little bit later. This guy went exactly the opposite. No, and now he plants in the first one. And in the second quarter, everything got messed up. Everything got destroyed, and his plants were successful. So his wife he's like, what's your secret for your success? How are you always knowing what's going to happen over here? So he told her. He said, listen, I go over here in the cemetery, and they tell me what's happening. So she goes, and one day they got into a little bit of a feud with the mother of one of the daughters that died, that went up into heaven, and they were finding out what was going on. So she says, oh yeah, and she sort of slipped out. She says, oh yeah, I know that your daughter is buried in a mat of reeds. And then she left. So that year, when the Hasid went back into the cemetery to listen to see what's happening, she said, okay, let's go up again and see what's happening this year. And she said, listen, don't go up anymore because there are people that are listening to us and they hear what's going on over here. It says the word came out of what we're discussing. So the Gemara ends off over here that here we see that the dead people do know what's happening, and not only do they know what's happening, from what's going to happen from heaven to earth, they also know the other way around, what people are doing on earth. So here we see a proof from the Gemara and Bachot that the people that passed away do know what's going on in this world.
They watch over us.
What?
They watch over us.
Like you're saying, you have a guardian angel that someone's deflecting basketballs and flies.
Jews don't believe in guardian angels, no?
You have an angel. You have an angel. But I'm saying
you don't have a guardian angel that's depicted like in today's culture. Like in modern culture, where the
you have an angel that it presents to you in the upper world, that's your lawyer, so to speak. So I don't know if you call a guardian angel.
When we review our lives, like when we go up to Shemaim,
it's not like you're gonna be reunited. Be like, you're my buddy angel. You're gonna go fist bump him, and you're gonna be like, what's going on? Long time no speak. It's it's part of you. That's
part of Shemaim?
Yeah. So yeah, some say that's the fifth part of the soul, but I'm not so clear on that. Okay, so. There are other stories in the that in the Gemara brings down that the Rav Ashi in Sanhedrin, he goes and he says, let's speak about some people that have no share to the world to come. One of them was a King Menashe. And they go over, and that night he had a dream, and he says, because the way that he verbalized it, he says,
no share in the world to come?
Have no share in the world to come.
Like they won't go up to Shemaim?
No share in the world to come is after Mashiach.
Oh, they won't be here after Mashiach.
Yeah, they have no share in that part.
Why is King Menashe not going to be here?
So that's it's a whole thing in Sanhedrin. Certain people did certain sins, have no share.
Is this Menashe and Ephraim's brother?
No. King Menashe happened, many years later.
Not Jew, right?
No, it's a Jewish king. Jewish king, yeah.
From Judah?
I'm not. I have to check. I'm not sure.
When you sleep, your part of you is up in heaven, right?
Yeah. Okay. So it says that he came over to the Najim and says, "What are you calling me your friend?" He says, "I'm not your friend." He says, I was a king. What do you know? This is talking about a few hundred, maybe even 1,000 years later. I mean, no, it's probably a few hundred. He says, what do you call me your friend? So he says, if I'm your friend, he says, when you eat bread, where do you break off bread to make a motzi? So Rav Ashi was somebody from the Gemara. So people in the Gemara were geniuses in the Torah, very holy people. And he says, I never even knew that you were supposed to eat from a certain place. So the king Menashe says, I'll tell you where. He says, you're supposed to eat it from the most burnt part. Then when you break and you say, motzi, you eat it from the most well done part. So he was basically telling him, don't call me your friend. He says, you don't know what I had to go through, the sins, because it was through idol worship, basically, was the issue that he had. So, in any case, we do see that people that passed away do know what's going on in this world. Now, the Rav Nachman of Breslov says,
Listen, King Menashe were idol worshippers?
yeah, there were certain kings in Israel that were not righteous kings. That they promoted idol worship.
This is way after Solomon, correct? This is after the two divisions,
Solomon,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is after the Civil War and everything like that, right?
So,
Yeah.
The
Civil
kings.
War.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay, so Nachman of Breslov says people that speak against righteous people after they die will be scared in the dreams. He says that's a very interesting thing that he Nachman of Breslov, a very holy man, said. So a man once appeared to his mother in a dream. This man was he passed away, and they couldn't find his body. And when you can't find the body, and he was married, so they don't allow the woman to marry again until they find the body, because maybe he ran away. So he came over to his mother in a dream and says, I'm buried in X, Y, and Z place. And they went and they found him. And then his wife was now able to get remarried again. The Rav Shlomo Almoli, which is one of the main, I took a lot of information. He lived about in the mid 1500s. He was a physician, and he was a very big writer, a very Hebrew grammatical writer. Also, he wrote a whole sefer on dreams. So he took a lot of information, and he says that nothing happens in this world unless it's announced before unless it's announced before. And he brings proofs that says that God will speak to people nowadays in a dream. Okay, so now let's go through what the Gemara says about dreams. So far, so good. Any questions? We're going very systematically, right? There's a reason. In the beginning, you're going to be a little bit confused, but as we go on, everything is going to fit together. And you're going to realize why we went on such a long spiel on all the other dreams. Okay? So, the Gemara, we're going to bring some different pieces from what the Gemara says about dreams. The Gemara in Brachot, 57b, says, sleep is 1/60th of death. A dream is 1/60th of prophecy. And it also says fire is 1/60th of hell, honey is 1/60th of man, and Shabbos is 1/60th of the world to come.
Honey is what? 1/60th of what?
Of man, the manna.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's number one. And we're going to explain that. We're going to go through each. I'm just going to give you the pointers, then we're going to go through it. Number two, in Brachot 55a, as well as Nidarim 8a and to 8b, it says that every dream, even if it's a real dream, will have some nonsense into it. Will have nonsensical items into it. And the proof is, he says, is that when Joseph had his dream about the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowing down to it, the sun was, let's say, Yaakov, his father. The moon is Rachel, his mother, and everybody else are all bowing down to him. But his mother wasn't alive anymore. So what is he dreaming? So it says that every dream, even if it's a real dream, will have some nonsense into it. And it takes somebody who knows how to figure out what's real and what's not, to be able to pull it out. Somebody who knows how to interpret the dreams, to be able to pull it out and figure out what it is. By the way, I don't know, we're definitely not going to get to the interpretation part, but if somebody has a dream, you have to be very careful who you tell it to, especially if it's not a good dream. You don't just tell it to anybody, right? There are people that advertise a professional dream interpreter. Right, they have an old book that blows dust every single time they open it somehow. Right, they put the little dust powder, they open it up, and they say, your dream is... Those people are fake liars, and you should stay far away from them, because the way that the interpretation goes is the way that the dream is going to get fulfilled. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people go, there are people that used to, advertise in the radio in Israel, for example. It says, I'm dream interpretations. And they said a certain dream, and they interpret it for the bad. It says, what are you causing problems for other people for? It says, why would you interpret it? So be careful who you tell your dreams to and who you interpret to. When we get to the interpretation part, which is a very interesting on how to interpret, we'll deal with it more fully, but just a little pointer that everybody should be aware of. Okay, so the third part is, which is what we just spoke about, the Gemara in Brachot 55b speaks about, it says that the way that you dream, the way that it's interpreted is the way that it's going to get fulfilled. So it depends on the interpretation of the dream how it's going to get fulfilled. Right, so somebody has to be really smart to figure out if it's a bad... There are certain dreams that are bad that it's very hard to interpret for the good. Right, we'll speak about when we go into interpretation. But a person has to know what dream is bad, what dream is good, and if I can manipulate, if it's bad, maybe I can really turn it to being good. By interpreting it that way.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are there any records... Sorry. So you can ask.
So if you don't interpret them at all,
We're going to get to that. Yeah. No. Also, it's machloket. It's machloket. We're going to get to it. It depends in the Zohar or in the Kabbalah. We're probably that's in the whole section of interpretation, which will either be next week or the week after, depending on when we get to it. We're going to speak about it because some people say, okay, let's just ignore it. Yeah. So it's a very interesting question, and we're going to deal with it. There's two opinions.
Are there any stories of dreams on the Shoah, about Shoah, the Holocaust at all?
Yes, many stories. There are many stories that. Let's see if I can remember off the top of my head. There was once a mother that came over to. This story is written in the book of. There's Small Miracles. It was written by Yita Halberstam, and she wrote another book about the Holocaust. So they bring down there, if I'm not mistaken, a story about the Holocaust, and I'll just tell you the brief idea of it because I don't remember all the details. Is that a mother, passed away? She came over to her child in a dream, and she said, "Listen, wake up. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to run, there's a stool over here, you're going to go on the stool, you're going to climb out that window, and he basically told them word for word how to escape from the Holocaust. How to escape from the concentration camp. And they were able to successfully escape, this child, these later set of stories, because of all the details that his mother gave to him in a dream. So yeah, you do have the stories like that in the Holocaust. So, okay, so now, what does it mean that dream is 1/60th of prophecy? So, if there's a law that if, let's say you have a pot of food, and then you have a non-kosher item, and it has to meet all its criteria. It's not spicy, it's not sour, it's not salty, and it falls into the pot of kosher food. Now, if it's less than 60 times the value of what is kosher in there, then it gets nullified.
Why 60? Why just 60?
60, because there's specifically something with the number 1/60th, which we'll explain. Well, I don't know if I'll explain today. I'll try. Let's ask me afterwards, and I'll get, because So here'll answer a little bit of your question. When we're saying, what are we saying that it's nullified? Because when you have 1/60th of something, it means that it's not really there, but it's there. Which means there is something there, but it's nullified. It cancels. It's like really nothing.
Pointless.
Yeah, it's like a borderline.
It's like borderline nothing. That's what specifically the number one.
It's like a hair scratch.
Yeah, it's something like that's something it's there but not there. That's why when it says the dreams are like prophecy, because dreams, it's like. It's 1/60th of a dream is prophecy. So it's like, it's there, it's in the prophecy level, but it's not really prophecy. You understand? It's like the kosher food.
The question, how can you measure the 1/60th of a prophecy or of a dream?
The dream, so when we're gonna...
You can measure,
right.
The shkotzim, like the zvuk,
yeah.
You can mass it, the ratio of the
yeah.
zvuk weight and the food weight. So you can.
That's a little. Just I want to point out, but that's a little bit different when you have a full creature never gets nullified unless you buy it for a smoothie and you rinse it out before that. But let's say non-kosher food specifically, so you know the size. You could say, okay, this is this size. You can't start taking the dream and putting it on a paper and be like, okay, the first 2 lines are 60% of that. It does no, not like that. The idea is that it's prophetic, but it's not prophetic. So the smart person has to figure out how to know which one is real dream and which one is a fake dream. That's the real part of dreams. The part that everybody wants to hear is how to define if it's real or if it's not real, which hopefully we'll get to soon. I have a few more minutes before we. Okay, so now the most paradoxical statement about dreams is from the Gemara by Shmuel. Shmuel, he's had a bad dream. He says, bad dreams don't mean anything. He had a good dream. He says, dreams are like prophecy. So, and he quotes 2 psukim. He says, when he had a bad dream, he says, V'chalomot shav yidabeu, in Zechariah, chapter 10, verse 2. And then when he had a good dream, he says, no, it says in Numbers 12, chapter 12, verse 6, it says, B'chalom adar babo, I will speak to him in a dream. So we have 2 very conflicting verses, first of all, here. You're telling me the dreams are nothing, and then you tell me, no, God's going to speak to people in a dream. So which one is it? Is it real or is it not real? So this is, we're going to go to somebody who's Rabbi Yehuda Fetya. He was an unbelievable Kabbalist, lived in the time of the Ben Ish Chai in Baghdad. He was I don't want to say his specialty, but he focused a lot on exorcisms, which means it's souls that got dibukim, if you're familiar with that. Souls that got, possessed, he would be able to take them out. So he has a whole section in one of his farim about dreams. And says there's 2 types of dreams. There's a dream that can happen from an angel, that it's real, and then you can have a dream that happens from a demon, and that's fake. And that's so he says, how do we know which one's for what's what? So he explains that in a dream with a demon enjoys frightening people, right? We never did the topic of demons, which we have to do one time. The whole topic of demons, if it's real, if it's not real, how do we know?
Isn't there Babel and Zazel, the two demons that are present here? We just don't know where they are.
I'm not familiar with that, but it's possible. Unless you're saying the English word and not the Hebrew word.
Yeah, it's the English
So,
word.
okay, could be. The demons is a whole long topic in itself. But he says somebody whose dreams from, and we're going to finish that in about 10 minutes. I have to run to another class. So, the difference between angelic dreams and demon dreams. And obviously, angelic dreams are the real dreams. Demonic dreams, I guess, is or dreams that source from a demon is fake. If somebody gets frightened in the dream, like in their dream, they're really scared. They're running and they can't. They're running and they're not moving anywhere or something like that. They're falling and they're not, and they're getting really, really scared in their dream. And they in their dream they're
actually falling dreams.
Yeah, well, once we get into the interpretation, we'll go into the popular dreams. So if somebody goes and is falling or is running and he's getting really scared in the dream, that's a dream from demons. Demons enjoy frightening people. Dreams from an angel, they're not going to come and frighten you. If it's a scary dream, they'll tell you the whole dream as is, and when you wake up, you'll be able to ponder it and think about it in a normal fashion.
What if you die in your dream?
We'll speak about that's in dream interpretation. We'll speak about it in dream interpretation.
I've never heard you can die in a dream.
Yeah.
No, I had
it's actually
straight I died in a dream.
Yeah, so make sure you come to that class. It's very interesting. Yeah, so that we'll speak about.
Yeah.
So he says when God sends a dream by an angel, a true dream, the reason is that he wants to tell you something. He wants to tell you that, listen, something bad is supposed to happen. Wake up and do something about it. And that's the whole point of the scary dreams from an angel. There's no point of scaring you. From the demons, they enjoy frightening people. They get the kick out of it. So this is what they do. And if they see people that keep on, let's explain it first of all like this. It says, how do we know? Why would God wouldn't tell you something if there's nothing that you can do about it anymore? King Chizkiah Isaiah came over and prophesied to King Chizkiah, and he said, listen, because you didn't get married, you're going to get cut off from this world and from the next world. So King Chizkiah said, okay, so give me your daughter and I'll get married. He says, oh, what do you mean? The decree was already made. So the King Chizkiah replied to him, and he says, then why are you telling? If the decree was made, then what's the purpose of you telling me anything over there? And he said, he said, Ben Amos, I think it was, son of Amos. He says, be finished with the prophecy and be gone. I have a tradition, came from me from the house of King David, that even if you have a sharp sword on your neck, you never give up. You never give up, there's always hope. There's always hope, and you should always go and fight, and there's something to do. If God came and gave you a prophecy that I'm going to be cut off from the world, then there's a reason that God told me that. That means I could do something about it. God's not going to be like, hey, by the way, FYI, here's a letter.
God doesn't want you to be cut off from the world, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a reason why he's telling you these things. If someone has a bad dream, there's a reason why they're having a bad dream. And I'm saying it's a real dream, right? If it's a real bad dream, there's a reason why God's doing it, which means you can do something about it. God's not going to go and frighten that person in the dream itself, because that has no purpose for it. The whole purpose is that a person gets the information, and he gets the information, and he's going to go and do something about that information, not scaring that person. Is that clear so far? That's a little bit. Okay, so that's why he explains. This is still Rabbi Yehoshua. He says that a dream from an angel is very orderly. It makes sense. It's not like a bunch of weird stuff that's happening. You have no idea that you're driving and suddenly there's a clown sitting next to you and you're scared of clowns, and then you're swimming and like all over the place. You're flying and then all these weird things that are happening. It's very systematically and you know the purpose of it. So, and you perceive the dream as if you are awake. It's a very real dream. I've had people tell me dreams. When they ask me about dreams. They explain it as a feeling they've never felt before. Many times I've heard this. Many times. Certain dreams that when they happen, when they get it, it's a feeling they never had before, and they perceive it as if they were there. They were actually there, not like a dream and you're like very blurry and fuzzy, but they were actually there. So that's how you know. That's one of the thing that you know that it's a real dream. But with the demons, it's a bunch of unrelated things, a bunch of things that make no sense.
Who decides whether we get a dream from a demon or we get it from an angel?
Oh, so how do we get real dreams? It really depends on the person, and on the level of the person.
So
We'll just speak about it.
It's not.
Yeah, but even people that don't could still have real dreams. With like even somebody who is, let's say, not so religious, it's very possible that he'll have a real dream, and somebody really righteous that he won't have it. But the generalized thing is that the higher the person, which means the higher the soul, when the soul leaves his body, he has more places for to go that is open to him because he's so righteous. If you back to what we're speaking about before when the soul
Right,
leaves.
right.
One question quickly. I don't know if this is true, but some people actually put scissors under their pillow if they have a bad dream. Next day, sit or have one.
You're not supposed to sleep on your clothing. You're not supposed to sleep on. Oh, so this is a very important thing. You're not supposed to sleep on. If let's say you're tired, should not take your jacket, for example, and use that as a pillow. If I'm not mistaken,
Really?
it brings forgetfulness. Yeah.
No.
If I'm not mistaken,
Scissors on the ear.
it's better that he actually wears it. Wears it. It's his protection.
Wait, you're not
more.
allowed to
Scissors.
Oh, scissors! I thought you said tzitzis.
That's what
No,
I thought.
scissors.
I was like, scissors. Oh, you can hurt himself.
No, scissors.
Oh,
No,
I
literally.
never heard about that.
Never?
That's
No.
another superstition.
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm asking.
Is it special dream scissors?
No, it's
No,
just.
not scissors.
No.
Special book.
No, it's
Oh, they have
I'm
a
not
book or you
allowed.
have a scissors? I use scissors.
Exactly.
Yeah, that they put that for babies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
The best, by the way, is to say Kriyat Shema, or which we'll soon get to. The best protection that you have is to say Shema. Kriyat Shema Lamita.
Right.
Yeah, Shema before you go to sleep. Unless, and we'll speak about that unless.
But you also said it depends on the level, right? But there are also kids who have dreams and you don't know what to do with it.
I'm saying that's a generalized. It doesn't mean that somebody who is not on that level won't have a real dream. And somebody who's on that level will always have real dreams. Okay? Are we good? We have a few more minutes?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I have a question.
as
Should
long
we
as
talk
you
about
do
the same topic in another class?
No. Okay. So, there's actually, if he says over here something, I actually was going to skip it, but I don't know why I want to say it. But a person, if let's say he wakes up and he feels that he has demons there, there's something that he could wake up and he could say, and I'll say it in English. It says, impure one, and like he's afraid that there's demons there that's making him dream these things. He says, impure one, get thee gone. Right? And he says that 3 times. So, this is from he's a very big Kabbalist, but I'm saying it's like, don't start screaming that and your wife is going to be like, what,
Isn't there
sending incantations from Shakespeare.
Isn't there a psalm? Don't you say for your dream?
Yeah, there's a whole, Kriyat Shema Lamita takes
like
care of
a
it.
really good dream, like for like a really good dream that you can see through everything in.
You're talking about the people that can ask questions through dreams.
Yeah.
That's something else. We're not going to go through that. That you should not do. We're not on the level to do that. What he's explaining is that there are people that there's certain criteria that you could do, and you could ask heaven about something in the dream. You could ask, It's called she'elat chalom.
But it's a very, very bad sin to see the future.
There's a procedure. It's not a sin, but we're not on the level.
To see the future, it's a sin. To see the future, that's a sin.
It's not. Maybe we'll speak about it later in a different time. It's called the she'elat chalom. She'elat chalom is
it's like a fortune teller or something. That's very bad.
Yeah. So, anyways, okay.
Compliments are somewhat acceptable.
So, okay. Additionally, is that when can the demons manipulate dreams is only in the beginning of the night. Only when the person is not heavily sleeping. Because if the person is not heavily sleeping, how do they also go? They go through the ear. And they're able to manipulate the dreams through the ear. Right? It doesn't mean that they're going to go and they whisper things through the ear and it forms things in your mind, and that's what you see. So, this only happens if somebody's not yet in the deep sleep. He's still in the beginning stages, and that's when they could come and they could manipulate the dreams. However, if somebody reads the Shema, the Kriyat Shema Lamita, before he goes to sleep, he says that protects him. He said, and then he goes and says, and I wasn't sure if I should say it, but I'll just say it, being that I'm already saying everything. Is if somebody had relations with a demon, Shema doesn't protect him, right? Unless he has to concentrate on every single word, right? I know I just said like a big thing. When we speak about demons, we'll put more on that topic. But generally, Kriyat Shema Lamita helps. Kriyat Shema Lamita, if you say it before you go to sleep, it's going to protect you from good dreams, right? The more you concentrate, obviously, the better that it's going to help. Okay. Now, additionally, if somebody goes and he's, if the demon, let's say, goes and gives him a certain dream, and the guy gets, he really is like, oh my God, it's real, and the demon sees that he got a target, he's going to keep on basically painting that person on that dream again and again. If he's foolish enough to believe that dream. So he's going to keep on getting, and sometimes they'll even predict things in the dream that's going to happen, because the demons know the short future. They could even predict things that happen, and he's going to be like, that's for sure real. I knew this was in my dream. So they're going to fool him and they're going to just hook him on, and it's like a drug addict. He's going to be like, he's going to be addicted to it, and they're going to drag him down. So therefore, a person has to be, says Rav Huda Fetya. This is all from Huda Fetya still. A person, which again, he was a student of the Ben Ish Chai, right? He was in the times of the Ben Ish Chai. I believe he was a student. You have to be careful. You have a certain dream, bring it to somebody who is well versed in dreams and well versed in the Torah, Talmid Chacham, and a few other criteria, and will guide you in the direction to what to do.
You actually, can I say something about dreams? There's I just remembered actually during the Holocaust there was a group of Hasids who used to study Torah in the cave, and he had a dream the night before. Like the main Hasid who used to teach them Torah and everything, he told his students he had a dream that the next day they would be captured. What happened was the next day was Kristallnacht,
And he escaped?
so they found him and they walked him and 6 of his other students out to the forest. They had held guns to all their hands, to all their heads, and they had German shepherds with them, of course, like search them out, sniff them out, and everything. So when they took him out to the forest, they pointed the gun to his head. The gun cocked back, but no bullet came out. It didn't shoot nothing. The gun cocked back, but nothing came out. He holds it to the dog's head. He shoots the dog in the head. The bullet comes out. The gun didn't cock though, so the bullet comes out only when he put it to the dog's head. One more time, he goes to the next student, tries shooting at him. Again, the gun cocks, but nothing comes out. So he gets frustrated. He comes up to the other dog. The gun cocks back and shoots at the same time. He's like, all right, this time, this was not your time. You can leave with all your students, but let me not see you again.
Tell you again, that's not a usual Nazi mentality. Yeah. Usually they'll work very hard to make sure that gun goes. But yeah, okay. So let's finish up over here. I wanna get a little. Let me finish up with this. Even though let's say someone has dreams from demons, doesn't mean that it's going to be all false. Which means is, let's say you know somebody is a pathological liar. He always lies. Everything, or he or she always lies. Everything that comes out is a lie. But you still know that not 100% of everything they say is going to lie. They're going to have some truth in there. So do people that dream from demons, or they don't know the source of the dreams. It's very possible that there's some truth in it. You have to figure it out. You have to sort it out and figure out what's the truth and what's the fake. It's very difficult job to do.
How bad is it to be a pathological liar?
It's very bad. Midvash shekel tichak.
From all points of view, not only from
from lying is not a good midah. Okay. Additionally, if a dream comes with a demon, let's say it's a true dream, and it only happens in the very short future. An angel it could be 5-10 years. Even we see Yosef, he had a dream 22 years. It could come true in the far right future. Okay, so it is getting a little bit late, so we're gonna stop over here. The next time that we meet, B'ezrat Hashem, I think it's gonna be next Tuesday. We're gonna speak about the real dreams versus fake dreams, and we're gonna specify how do you know what's a real dream. I'm gonna give you very, very simple criteria that you're gonna be able to figure out if it's a real dream or if it's a fake dream. We're gonna go through different types of dreams, and we're gonna go. That's actually quite. And then what type of person gets a higher level dream, and what happens if you don't dream and things like that. Hopefully, we'll get to that in the next class. Probably the most important class, I would say, is next one. Okay, Chazak u'Baruch. Any questions?